Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a battle group preview of the 79th Guards Tank Division. Of course this is in the early access build, so everything is subject to change, but I just wanted to take you guys through the Soviet units that are currently available in the game. So here we go. Let's start off with the MTLB Snab. This is a very low supply unit, but does of course have armor. It's very cheap, and I believe you do get a lot of them on a card if you bring them in, so 9 on a card. Then there is the Ural. The Ural's probably your go-to when it comes to ground-based Soviet supply. It has the 1100 supply. Doesn't have any armor though, but the 108 km/h speed, it's fine. It's just like your generic supply truck, and you want to keep these back a little bit from the front line. Just move your units back to resupply, or you could just like hide them in forests nearby or towns and so on in order to supply the surrounding units. So there you go, that's your 2 supply units there for ground choices. Then there's the BRDM-2U, which is just a standard command unit. Doesn't have any armament, just used for capturing your back sectors that are uncontested. Can be used on the front line to give veterancy to your units, but I'd probably leave that to some of the more chunky units or just like infantry leaders because they can hide. Then there's the Mi-8 IV, which is a command helicopter. This is quite chunky because it has the extra health, like it's 10 health, which means it can take quite a few shots from light AA weapons before it goes down, but that's not what you're going to want to use it for. This again is useful for either back capping, so capturing your backside sectors, or going for an early cap onto like a mid sector so you can pull in reinforcements further up the map. There are some maps that allow you to do that. Then there's the BMP-1K3, which is a command vehicle that can actually defend itself. It does have the 73mm main gun with 12 mils of penetration, and then also the Malyutka HGM. But if your command units are engaging, they're generally going to be in trouble, and this will still get one shot by like a heavy tank, for example, or a helicopter with an HGM. So yeah, you're generally just going to want something that's like cheap and easy to move around. The nice thing about the BRDM in particular is that it is pretty fast off-road. It's got the 90 km/h speed, so you can move it around if it gets under pressure and then bring in other units to help defend it. So yeah, there you go. Moving on to the infantry tab. The infantry tab's pretty one-dimensional in the 79th Guards. It basically relies entirely on Mojostraki, but there are different kind of variants to them. But before we look at the Mojostraki, you can actually get the UAZ 469 AGS in the infantry tab, which is just a little car with a grenade launcher on it. It does have 1,415 meter range, which outranges all infantry at the moment. So infantry has 885 meter range on their light weapons. The AGS can get outranged by, say, like the recoilless rifles, but against like standard AT weapons like the Law, you're going to be well out of range, and you're not going to be killed by light arms fire because you've got 1,415 meter range versus the 800 meter range. So these could actually be pretty useful for like support when you're attacking infantry at range. But then we have the Mojostraki. So we have the Mojostraki leader here to begin with. These do have the RPG-22, which can kill armored targets at closer ranges. But their AKs have the 885 meter range, just a standard 4 strength leader squad, good for capturing sectors whilst also providing veterancy to surrounding infantry. And that's what they're there for. And I have decided to bring in one of these in the UAZs. You can also bring them in the BMP-1P and the BMP-2. And I will quickly look at these since they're available. So the BMP-1P has that 73mm main gun and the Malyutka, same as the command vehicle in the logistics tab. And then you have the BMP-2, which has the 30mm cannon with the Konkurs-M. And the Konkurs-M is a reasonably good A-to-GM. It has 20 penetration, which is the same as like an Ito, and then the 2,650 meter range there. The best thing about this is the main gun. The main gun's actually pretty good at ripping through infantry and does a decent amount of damage to other light armor and infantry fighting vehicles that you're going to be coming up against. So there you go. Anyway, moving on, we have the first standard Motorstrike squad. So these are the Motorstrike with BMPs. So these can only choose the BMPs for their transport. But they have the 6 AKs, the RPK, and then the RPG-7. And that has 13 penetration. I do find it kind of strange that this is only 530 meter range. It does have the scope on it, like it's the 7VR variant. So it should probably be a little bit longer than that in my opinion. But either way, Motorstrike there, pretty cool. And they come in with the BMP-2s in my deck. I've also got a variant with the BMP-1s as well. Although the BMP-1 and the BMP-2 currently cost exactly the same, the BMP-2 is definitely better, so I might just change that on the fly for myself. Then there's the standard Motorstrike. Now these Motorstrike can only come in the BTR-60, but they have the same armament as the Motorstrike with BMP, but these Motorstrike have one more man, so they're a little bit better on the infantry versus infantry aspect. But that is about it. You get a worse sort of armored unit with it, so you're kind of sacrificing like a BMP to get that extra man, which I don't really think is worth it. But either way, moving on, we have the Motorstrike with the Metis. Now the Metis is probably one of the better HGMs in the game at the moment. It doesn't have the range that some of the other HGMs have, but the penetration is spot on, and it can do a lot of damage. Very quickly. It can kind of like one-shot Abrams in the side armor, which is really, really nice. So, yeah, very cool. The Metis M there. Get 6 of those Metis M in the squad as well. And yeah, you can get a lot of value out of these Metis squads. They can only be brought in with the BMP 1P, and I've decided to bring in both of these cards at 2-vet. Then there is the Saperi Comrati. They're basically the same as the Motorstrike Comrati, except from they use the RPG-7 VR, which is, you know, exactly the same in terms of statistics at the moment. There is the Sapere squad. These are your close-range infantry. They have the Satchel Charge, which enables you to do a lot of damage against like adjacent infantry units and buildings, as well as enemy infantry you maybe bump into at close range in a forest. So there you go. And then there is the better Saperi, in my opinion, which is the Saperi RPO, which comes with the RPO incendiary rocket launcher, which is just great for demolishing infantry at range and basically pushing them out of cover. So once this lands, it leaves a bit of flame on the floor, and then the infantry squad that you're firing at has to move, and then they take more damage because they have to move out of cover in a lot of cases. They only get 2 of these though, 2 rockets, so you do need to keep them resupplied if you want to get like maximum effectiveness out of these Sapere. In this case, I'm bringing them in the UAZ just to get them as cheap as possible, since I don't really think the BTR-60 is worth it. The BTR-60 is like an interesting transport. It does have like the 2 front armor. Let me just hide these so we can see the model. Yeah, it's got the 2 front armor, so it's okay. But the 1 side armor, 1 rear armor, 1 top armor, and it's also got this heavy machine gun which can actually penetrate slightly armored targets, so you can use it for that, but it's just not that good in comparison to something like a BMP. That's the infantry tab done. Let's move on to the artillery tab. And this guard's tank division, there isn't much artillery. You do get the Gvozdika as a option, which is kind of like a shorter range variant of the Akatsaya. It is also a bit cheaper. This can, I guess, just help you stun units, lower their cohesion before you actually attack them, and in doing so, you know, get an advantage against them because you lower their rate of fire. But I don't know if this really does that much damage at the moment, so yeah. I've gone with the Akatsaya in my deck, which is basically a longer range gun with higher damage. So you can see here, this one has 1.83 damage, and then this one does 2.28 damage. So that's HE damage. So that means that this is going to probably kill like 2 or 3 heaps per shot if it lands on an infantry squad, which isn't a lot really. But yeah, I think it's nice to have them as support. Then I have the BM-21 Grad, which is the multiple rocket launcher, has 122mm rockets, 40 of those to fire, 17,000 meter range, just kind of like pins down units in a large area and lowers their cohesion so you can attack them a bit better. Right, moving on to the tank tab. This is what the 97th Guards Tank Division is all about, of course. First up is the Conkers. So with 80 units currently being in the tank tab in this build of the game, we do have the BRDM2 Conkers here, which has the 20 penetration with the Cyclops missiles there, 2,650 meter range, currently got 62% accuracy due to the extra veterancy. These are really cheap. Definitely worth having because they'll pay themselves off quite a bit. Then next up is the T80B. I don't believe I have any of these in my deck, but they are a variant you can choose if you want. They have the 14 front armor, 8 side armor, 3 rear, 3 top, and then you've got the main gun here with the 16 penetration, 2,295 meter range. So matches pretty much the maximum range of any other tank. Also has the Cobra that it can fire. I believe the Cobra missiles come out of the main gun, right? With these T80s. So yeah, you can use that at maximum range to kind of snipe units as well. And I think if you were to bring this in, like the cheaper variants of tanks like this, that's what you'd want to use them for. They're pretty decent off-road. They get a 12.7mm machine gun on them. So there you go. And then we got the T80 BVK. I don't have any of these in my deck either, since I chose to bring in the T80 UK as my command tank. But these cost 315 points for 17 front armor, 9 side armor. You only get like 18 penetration on your main gun, and then you get the Cobra rocket, or missile, sorry, again. They do get a little bit better optics, by the way, so that is worth pointing out, which means they can spot targets just a little bit better. Don't have to rely on recon so much. And then you got the T80 BV, which is basically exactly the same, just without the command. And I would just recommend bringing these in like 2-star vet, so you do get that little bit extra accuracy on the main gun if you are going to bring them in. I do have a couple of cards of these at 3 vet, in fact, to get them all the way up to 82% accuracy on that main gun, which is very, very significant. Right, next up is the T64 BV. Now this is very similar to the T80 BV, it just has a better gun, pretty much. So you can see that the penetration is just better. It also gets the Eugen ground-to-ground missile as opposed to the Cobra. So you just got better weapon systems, but same armor, pretty much. Also, the speed is a little bit different there. The T64 BV is slower than the T80 BV, but the autonomy is better on the T64 BV. So the T64 BV can drive further, but the T80 BV can drive faster. Then there is the T80 UK, which is the best, pretty much as good as it gets. This has the 20 front armor, which is the best front armor you can get, with the 20 penetration on the main gun, with the reflex missile as well that it can use at 2,825 meter range, which is not an insignificant value. Like, this is really quite far. So yeah, you can definitely hit things hard from range with this tank. And then the T80U, again, is pretty much exactly the same, just without the command capability. Just to reiterate, command in this game is used to capture sectors and give veterancy to surrounding units. So in this case, the T80 UK is going to be there up on the front line with my other T80Us and T80s and T64s in general. Just to give them veterancy whilst also capturing a sector that might be contested. It's quite an expensive tank to have that far up, so the risk there is quite high, but it is, I would say, worth it to have the extra veterancy on your units because the accuracy difference is so great. Anyway, moving into the recon tab here, we have the BRDM2. This has one side, well, one armor all around, let's just say that, and then the 14mm gun, which does have the penetration, so it can get through sort of light armored vehicles with this gun, and this range allows it to fire at both ground and helicopters. But of course, this is just a cheap recon vehicle, and it's there to provide its good optics in order to spot enemy units. Then I have the Razvedka squad. These Razvedka, you get 4 of them in a squad, and one has an RPK with an RPG-22 as well in there. So you do have some AT capability with the 13 penetration, but basically you're going to want to keep these on return fire and just use them for their very good optics. I have brought them in with the UAZ, that is their only transport option. Then we have the BRM-1. Now this BRM-1 benefits from having exceptional recon, which is very, very nice indeed. And yeah, 54 km/h off-road speed, 79 km/h on-road speed. It's a pretty damn decent recon vehicle. Just make sure that it doesn't reveal itself so you can really get the most out of it. I don't think veterancy is really that important on the BRM unless it does affect optics, because veterancy in Steel Division 2 did affect how good a unit was at spotting stuff. It just wasn't kind of shown in the armory, and I don't know if that's the case on WARNO as well, but I guess we'll find out as development continues for the game, and we find out all the little secrets behind the scenes. But yeah, the BRM, nice exceptional recon there. And then I have the Mi-8K as well, which is a helicopter, good recon, well, it's got exceptional optics, which is actually really good, and yeah, just great for hovering around, spotting stuff for you while you're engaging it with other units. Just watch out that it doesn't get shot down. Next up, AA. First squad is the Eagler squad. This Eagler squad does 4 damage per hit, which means it does take like 3 hits to shoot down something like an Apache with 10 health, which is not ideal, especially considering the accuracy is quite low and their rate of fire is nothing to really write home about. But if you upvet them a little bit, you can obviously make their success rate a bit higher, and they're going to fire really damn fast. They seem to acquire their targets pretty fast, so in that case, like, I think it's worth having at least 1 card of them just to supplement your AA across the map and have in support of your infantry units and other armoured units that you want to try and protect. Then we have the Strela 10M here. This Strela 10M does have a little bit of armour, 1 armour all around. The nice thing about the Strela is that it is an infrared AA unit, so it can't be targeted by enemy seed. Has 2,650 meter range versus helicopters, 2,120 meter range versus aircraft. So against aircraft, very short range, but against helicopters, this is good for shooting them down for sure. Then there is the OSA-AKM. This is much better against aircraft because it has a 3,535 meter range, but it has less against helicopters. So only 2,120 meter range. The great thing about the OSA-AKM is it does have 7 damage, which is really quite high in comparison to other units. So you can one-shot sort of lighter helicopters down. Like you can just take them out of the sky really fast. And also you're almost guaranteed to shoot down any other unit in 2 shots. So yeah, the OSA-AKM, actually a pretty damn decent anti-air unit in this game. The only downside it being radar, so it can get killed by seed. Then there is the Book. The Book actually has the same range currently as the OSA-AKM, as you can see. which I think is a bit odd, but of course, early access, everything's subject to change. The main benefit of bringing the book right now, as opposed to the OSA AKM, is that it benefits from extra damage. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, because I'm pretty sure the OSA AKM even has better accuracy. And I'm bringing in my OSA AKMs at 3-star vet. But yeah, actually no, the OSA AKM's the same as the book, get the same veterancy level. So you don't even get that benefit really. The OSA AKM even has higher rate of fire. So yeah, the only benefit of the book is that it does more damage. At the moment, anyway. Then there's the Tunguska. Now the Tunguska is probably the best AA piece in this deck. It costs 290 points, which is a lot. And it gets like Sackloss missiles that can fire into the air. You can, if you turn off the main gun, it can't be targeted by seed. And it will still be able to use its Sackloss missiles. The Sackloss missiles only have 2,120 meter range against helicopters, but its radar 30 mils have 2,800 meter range against helicopters. So its main gun kind of like makes up for the lack of range. And then the missile here gets a 3,537 meter range against aircraft, and it has 7 damage. So you're going to have plenty of damage to shoot down enemy aircraft, and it fires very quickly as well with the 15 round per minute rate of fire there. And I believe that is at 2 vet. So yeah, a very strong anti-air unit for sure. And that's obviously represented by its cost. Right, moving on to the helicopter tab. Not really much to talk about here other than the Mi-24V. This Mi-24 is equipped with 128 57mm rockets in these rocket pods, but then it has 4 Igla Vs. Now these Igla Vs are used for taking down enemy helicopters for the most part. You can fire them at enemy aircraft. The range is quite short on them for helicopters. You're going to be going up against the OH-58 though. I think the OH-58 has less health than the Mi-24, so the Mi-24 should win helicopter engagements for the most part. Until maybe there's another helicopter brought in with better health and missiles. But yeah, it's going to take like 2 hits from an Igla to shoot down like an OH-58, whilst an OH-58 probably has to get like 3 hits on target to shoot down an Mi-24. I can't remember how much damage the OH-58 does. But those are the only 2 air-to-air helicopters in the game right now. But the 10 health is really nice on this, and of course it does have the ability to target ground forces as well. Particularly does a lot of damage against infantry and other light armored targets. Right, moving on to the air tab. So we have the Su-25. Now the Su-25 comes in with a bunch of different payloads, the first of which is the 80mm rockets. These are pretty good because they don't really use up all of them in one run. You can kind of like fire a few of them at one target and then fire a few at the next target, have this float around, just like demolish lots of like light armored targets and infantry. So yeah, the rocket Su-25 is actually really nice, but the Su-25 in general does have exceptional agility. It goes at 556 km/h speed and has 10% ECM. ECM's not very good, but the Su-25 itself does have armor. It's got 2 front, 1 side, 2 rear, and 1 top armor, which makes it pretty good at sort of like defending itself against enemy AA. It will just like get hit, and it can tank a few shots before it actually goes down. The HE variant has the 500 kilogram bombs, 6 500 kilogram bombs. Since they've updated the bomb pattern, apparently these are actually not too bad, so probably worth a try. But yeah, 6 500 kilogram bombs there, and you also get 2 missiles as well, which can be used for either shooting down enemy helicopters or, you know, throw in towards an enemy aircraft if they come towards you. But there we go. That's the bombing variant. Then we have the cluster variant, which is 250 kilogram cluster bombs. And then you've got the napalm variant, which is the 500 kilogram napalm bombs. So just great for like dislodging infantry and burning light armor targets. There is also an Su-25 with air-to-ground missiles. They actually get the good old KH-29D missiles, which are huge, by the way. Look how big they are. Incredible. But yeah, they get 30 penetration, which I believe is like the highest penetration value in the game, and then 3,180 meter range. If these hit something, especially like a heavy tank in the side armor, it's gonna one-shot. I don't know about front armor, but would definitely do a lot of damage. I'm curious if these could actually kill like an M1A, 1HA Abrams in the front armor. It'd be worth trying. But yeah, 62% accuracy with veterancy. These do come in at 2 vet. You can't really choose otherwise. I don't think you can for any of these aircraft actually. Right, next up, the Su-24. Currently, it appears that these are a little bit bugged in this build. You can't actually bring them in, so I haven't had a chance to try them. But this one comes with 8 500 kilogram bombs, and then there's cluster variant with 8 250 kilogram cluster payload, and then there's a napalm variant with 6 500 kilogram napalm bombs. So yeah, you've got all of the different variants there. And then you've got the plane itself, the Su-24, good agility, 20% ECM, 761 km/h speed. Isn't that fast, but it is of course faster than the Su-25. And in terms of like the HE, the Su-25 only gets like 6 500 kilogram bombs. The Su-24M can carry 8. But I'd be curious to see the bombing pattern, to see if it would be worth bringing those in comparison. Anyway, then we have the MiG-23ML. The ML is probably your go-to, well, sorry, not the ML, the P is probably your go-to air-to-air. The MiG-23ML is alright. It's got like 10% ECM, exceptional agility, 1,463 km/h speed, so it's a fast aircraft. But I think it just gets outclassed by the P, because the P is in fact cheaper but gets more like payload. So the ML gets 6 Vimpel missiles, which would make it good for targeting helicopters, but there aren't that many helicopters in the game at the moment. So the MiG-23P, which actually has some semi-active radar missiles as well, going air-to-air, is absolutely fine. So yeah, I mean, I guess technically, you know, you have the same amount of missiles. It's just you're paying way less for the MiG-23P. So I think the MiG-23P is just the better choice with those semi-active radar missiles. Because it's not like the Vimpel is not semi-active, right? It's not like it's fire and forget. So yeah, just a different missile. They both come in at like the extra veterancy there. You get the 20% ECM as opposed to the 10% ECM on the ML. The P is just all around better. A little bit confusing why it's more expensive, or sorry, less expensive than the ML. Finally, though, we have the MiG-31M, and this comes with 4 Vimpel radar missiles. These aren't really that useful at the moment because they match the range of the MiG-23P. The MiG-31M should probably have a lot more range with the Vimpel missiles. But yeah, there you go. The damage is better on the MiG-31. You can see it has 8 damage as opposed to 6 damage and 5 damage on these missiles. But it doesn't really matter because the MiG-23 needs 2 shots to shoot down an enemy aircraft anyway. I guess the MiG-31 would technically be better against like armored aircraft like the A-10 Thunderbolt, because it has the damage to get past the armor. So like a MiG-23 in that case would probably take 3 missiles to shoot down an A-10, whereas a MiG-31 could probably still shoot down an A-10 in 2 missiles. But the accuracy on those Vimpels is awful. It's only 50%. The MiG-23s get 75%, so yep, MiG-23 is all the way. And that's it. That is all of the units for the 79th Guards Tank Division. And I'll just quickly, or slowly, sort of go through these so you guys can pause and look at what I have if you want to try and build your own deck. But I will, of course, leave the code for the deck in the description, which you can paste in. And just so you guys know how to do that, let me just come out of this deck. If you go to battle groups in the armory, you can click import, and you'll be able to import a code. So if I export this, it will give me the battle group code, which is the code that you'll find in the description. And then when you click import, when you have it on your clipboard, it will automatically paste it into the battle group code here. You just give it a name, and then you'll get a copy of my battle group if you want to get a head start when you start early access. But yeah, that is it for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this look at some of the Soviet units that we've got access to. This is only, of course, 2 of the planned, like, 16 divisions that are going to be in the game on release. I think they said something like that. So yeah, that's obviously going to be the last battle group preview for now, but when more of these battle groups come out, I will of course cover them on the channel. So make sure to subscribe if you're interested in more WARNO content. But that is it from me. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.